set?
Just
Okay.
a half hour apart, so.
All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Calling the April 17th, 2025 Merrill Enrichment Center Committee meeting to order. Approval of consent items. Everyone have a chance to look over their meeting minutes?
I move approval.
I second that. I'm so happy to get those passed.
Any discussion? I guess the only thing I'll add is Elizabeth and I did chat regarding the chair of the meeting. And we came to a mutual agreement, if everyone's okay with this, that I would just continue in the role, and then on the times I can't be here, that she would do that, if that's agreeable.
The alternative is we were gonna rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
That'd have been fun.
Yeah.
So
So,
you are the vice chair then,
She
right?
gets
I'm definitely
she
the
gets
vice.
paid the same amount.
sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Big money.
All on board, yeah.
Big money.
So with that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, approval of March, April vouchers.
Well, I have them in front of me. If I might just ask a question, every time I look at these, I see all these different payments to instructors. Is that based on a percentage of what you take in, or,
Yeah.
or how?
Yes, so basically they charge, so say they want to get paid $10, well, we have a couple arrangements in there. There's a couple different arrangements in there. So you'll see that for Zumba, I think we take 20%. The $3 is included in hers. There's a couple different situations with that. Gigi's, if you remember, is different because we changed how that works. So there's a percentage off. So we usually incorporate our $3 activity fee into what the instructor wants for the class. So if they're, if they want 10, the class will be 13. And then we take the $3 out, and what's remaining is the 10, and then we take our percentage off of that, the 15%. So that's the result of, then that's what they get paid. It should have a breakdown of that. It should show you that.
Well, yeah, and I read that, but I didn't understand
Yeah,
it, basically,
yeah.
because there's such a difference between what you pay different instructors, that's all.
Well, and it also depends on how many people are attending their class.
Yeah.
Gigi has 55 people in her, yoga classes, and one of our art instructors might have 5. So there's going to be a discrepancy in that. So.
And then secondly, do you still have any question regarding that $3 activity fee by any of us? Because I never heard anything more about it after our initial discussion a while ago.
No, with it, I think right now, anybody can jump into that. I think it's fine. I think we were questioning it for a little bit, like, should we keep this consistent? And then we decided that at this point, raising it wouldn't be in our best interest, especially now. But lowering it also would not be in our best interest. And even if it's $1, it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but it is. And I don't think anybody's complaining. Nobody's complaining about it. It's more of us just always looking and reevaluating to see, are we good? Are we losing people for any reason at all? And we're really not.
But everybody's kind of used to the $3.
Yes, it's flat. Yes, and that's what it is. And people are, creatures of habit,
Yeah.
and so change is
I move
tricky.
approval of
Yeah.
vouchers, move
Yeah.
approval of vouchers.
I'll second that.
The only other thing to add to that, I think in support of that, is even when we changed the $30, there was where you get somebody 10 tickets for.
our
when
punch
you
card?
were at a punch
Mhm.
card, thank
Right.
you. And we had, I think 27, you got a free before, and now they pay 30. They pay for all. You don't get a free class where it used to have.
Right, but now we have drawings at the end of each
Right.
month. So people win a punch card.
Yeah, that's,
So that's a big deal.
that is a big deal.
It's gambling a little, but not.
Yeah. But nobody seemed to have a problem.
Yeah, no, nobody did.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because the punch card definitely does help, and does help for us.
Certainly.
Just ease of everything.
And do we get any money from the large number of people who use the other end of the building? Like, I know Arnie Lang has sometimes tons of people.
That's under the city,
That's just.
purely under the city, yeah. Yep.
I think we did approve those, correct?
We,
Thank you.
well, did we call it?
That's
There's a
all I
motion and
remember.
a, yeah.
Okay, then, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, public comment. Anyone in the room like to share anything from the public?
Nothing on the public?
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go and get the girls because they're hiding. The time has come.
I didn't see an ADRC update on there either, but maybe
Oh.
during like the discussion.
Oh, and Carol's here too, so go ahead.
Good. And she was just noting the ADRC could,
Do you want me to give it?
Carol usually sits here, so you can sit right behind me if you want, or you can sit by Jennifer. I'll have Steph sit here. No, just kidding. I'm kidding.
hey, Carol.
Hi,
Tammy, I
Look how
didn't
pretty you look.
see that ADRC update. Do you want me to do it during the discussion?
Oh, where did it go? No, we want you to do updates.
No, I mean I can do like it during the discussion.
No, let's do that, let's do that now. Yes, what in the world? Okay, my apologies.
I am gonna read my update.
And then you'll give me the copy
Yeah.
for 4 minutes? Okay, fair enough.
So I was just talking with Erin, and I just wanted to share that we're in the middle of the state 2025-27 budget process right now. So budget hearings are taking place in April. There'll be one coming up at NTC on April 29th from 10 to 5, where the Joint Committee on Finance will be there. It's a public hearing. Anyone can attend and sign up to testify at the hearing, but one of the things we'll be discussing is Meals on Wheels, which is huge. And then another thing is the Healthy Aging grants are also proposed in the budget this year, which focuses on fall prevention, which is really my role. So I will be going to testify. We have Jeremy Kopp from the Wausau Fire Department testifying on behalf of fall prevention as well, and then Mike Ray, our executive director, will be attending and testifying about the impact of Meals on Wheels. So if you can't be there in person and you still want to provide a testimony, Erin did send me some links. You can actually submit a written testimony regarding priorities for any of the budget items, and so I can send you maybe the
You
links
could, I
to
think
those.
I did, she sent me the link and I did.
Oh, she
do it.
did?
Yeah,
Okay.
personally, but
Okay.
I think the girls haven't and, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
that'd be great if the more
Yes,
we can get
yes.
information on both of those issues, the better.
Yes, and I can share it then with the committee.
Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah.
that
So
would
I
be good.
will, or if you have, so you have.
I just send it to me in case, I mean, I
Just
have
in
the
case,
link, but
okay.
it's been a while,
Okay,
so.
yeah,
I
I'll
wanna
send
make sure I
those
still
over to
have
you
it.
and
That'd
you
be
can get
great.
them out. But yeah, that's
Hmm.
a big thing coming up for us.
Thank you.
When's the date?
April 29th. So the way I understand it is that you arrive, so I think the time frame, did I say 10 to 5? The way I understand it is if you're the first in line, you are like, you can get to the top of the agenda quicker. So like we're showing up at 7 a.m. to stand in line to get signed up. But then you're given, like a group is given like 5 minutes to testify. I think an individual is given like 2 minutes to testify. So
Okay.
it's, you don't know where you're gonna be placed. You could be there all day.
Oh, gotcha.
Depending on how you fall. So we're hoping that if we get there at 7 a.m. that we're not hanging out there all day, but
Yeah, I hope so.
that's why if written testimonies are great too.
Where is it at again?
North Central Technical College at the center, let me just see here quick. This is this College Center for Health Services, 1000 West Campus Drive, Wausau.
And I'll make sure when Jen sends that, I'll forward it to everybody, just so that you have that.
Yeah, the information.
And then do you have is there a deadline on the written comments?
I don't think so, but I don't know that for sure. I'm just looking if there was anything in Erin's. So if you cannot attend, you can still contribute. Written testimony regarding your priorities for the state budget can also be shared with JFC members via online portal or by email. There's an email address, or sent via US mail. So I can send all those to you.
Okay.
But I don't know time
Yeah.
frame wise.
What's the current status on the Meals on Wheels program as it is right now?
Yeah, so from what I know, we ended up having to reduce some individuals from 5 days down to 4 days. And so I think they were in the process a few months ago of like contacting all of, because we cover Lincoln, Langley, Marathon, and Wood counties, of contacting and just letting people know of that reduction. And I know that they've been applying for some grant dollars. I don't know that we know anything about those. I think Erin just kind of wrapped up some of those or she was writing grants,
Yeah.
lots of grants.
Yes, that's what she was saying.
And
so.
I think those were submitted. We haven't heard anything on those yet, so.
Are those the people that are in the more remote areas where you can't get to them as easily, or how do you pick these people that get 4 versus 5?
Yeah, I think that's across the board. Yeah, so
I
anyone.
mean, everybody?
Everybody.
Mhm,
Okay.
yeah.
And then the frozen meals are also paused,
Frozen
or are they still
meals?
going on the, I remember that conversation too
I'm
briefly.
trying to
that-
remember.
Yeah, that
There's
was
been so much
also-
thrown at us lately.
Yeah, I
I
bet there has.
can't remember on the frozens. I feel like we were just gonna be a little bit more cautious on frozens. You know, if people really needed them.
Okay,
It was kind of
okay.
a, like, what's their situation kind of thing.
That's right, she
I-
did
I
say
think
something,
that's
and
it.
that's really hard to
Yeah.
have to do, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
Could I ask Jennifer, is there a certain percentage of your funding subject to the trials and tribulations that are going on at the national level that you have to worry about now?
I don't know the answer to that. That I'd have to go back and ask. Yeah, I guess I'm not. I just hear things as they trickle down
As they
to me,
trickle
but
down, right, right.
yeah, I don't.
What percentage does ADRC get from the federal government?
That's an
I
Aaron
can
question.
ask. Yeah, that would be an Aaron
Yeah.
question. But I can follow up if you want. So percentage of what?
From the
Federal money.
Federal money?
I had a handout at one time.
I was gonna say, I think I recall that handout, and is it per state and then per county within the state and based on,
I'd have to
levels
relook at
of
that. I didn't
need?
bring it with me today.
Yeah,
but
I do
It was
remember-
broken down like that too, and I
Yeah.
don't remember offhand.
yeah, something like that, but yeah, so, yes, if you find it, then I can share it with everyone, so.
Okay.
And who knows what might
Because Meals on Wheels was brought up yesterday as being one of the areas that was subject to a drastic cut
Mhm.
in some part of the budget, and I don't know how that comes down to the state level.
Yeah. I don't know either.
Yeah, I don't either. Concerning it is though.
Oh, goodness.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll send what I have over.
Okay.
And
Thanks, Jen.
follow up. And certainly if Mike Gray actually had, our executive director had said he would be happy to come and talk more about it too.
Oh,
if-
okay.
If we're
If
interested
we-
as a committee in knowing.
Yeah, if he has the information to share, that would be nice.
So maybe next meeting, well, I'm not gonna be here next meeting, but maybe he could fill in.
Maybe he could, yeah,
I'll
that
ask.
would be good.
Okay, any other questions for Jennifer?
Just on Meals on Wheels, when it's 4 days a week, it's just gonna be Monday through Thursday?
I think they cut Fridays.
Mhm.
So, yeah, Monday
cut
through Thursday.
Fridays.
Yeah, yeah.
So people have to go 3 days without a meal.
Well, if they do qualify if they still continue the frozen, they would get the frozens on Thursday then instead of Friday. And
Right.
that would have to carry them through 3 days then instead of just 2, so, yeah.
Do most people get the frozen, or?
Not everybody. I mean, some people don't have any interest in the frozen
Right,
meals.
right.
And other people, you
Yeah,
know, do
they
it.
choose to.
It
get
really
them.
just depends. But yeah, like you said, Tammy, like if someone's really struggling, they could offset with a frozen meal Friday.
Mhm.
It's just that we have to be very cautious about looking at what we're giving,
Yeah.
providing.
Do you still have volunteers willing to do that to meet your needs?
That is always a need for us, Meals on Wheels drivers. I haven't looked at the status in Merrill here, but I would say probably, yes, we could use Meals on Wheels drivers. Yep, so, in our Merrill area, we only rely on volunteers,
Mhm.
for delivery, where in some of like Marathon County, we have some paid drivers, but here in Merrill, Lincoln County, it's all volunteer.
Because I know some of your drivers are as old as I am.
Yeah. What's nice about it is that you can really tailor it to what you want. So we
Mhm.
have we've had one gentleman that delivered every single day for years.
Mhm.
And then, some people that say, well, can I just fill in, here or there periodically when you need somebody, or somebody else that wants to maybe do one time a week. We've gotten a little creative too with businesses now, so like some of our banks have actually, we call it adopter out, and so they'll get like a team together and they'll do a team approach to it. So not everybody's, they're delivering every day, but it's not the same person every day, so.
That's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you again for
Thanks, Jen.
on the fly.
Yeah.
All right, next operations. Welcoming Vicki and Stephanie
Yes.
to the meeting.
So, they're here because they're gonna recap the D-Stash event for us. So take it away, ladies.
So, our D-Stash was March 29th. We had 25 vendors, 2 did cancel because of illness-related issues, and then MEC ourselves, we had a booth, total of 32 tables. We had a very large.
We had a very large space.
Which brought in $735 in just table fees. It's a little different because it was a $10 donation. Somebody needed an extra table more than what we provided, so they donated. Approximate sales for MEC, just for items that we sold, craft art related items, we have an approximate of 700. And the reason we don't know exactly is because as we were setting up on Wednesday and Thursday, we had participants buying items as we were putting them out, and we didn't want to tell them
money,
no.
they're showing money, right?
But so that money was coming up and going right into our activities. We didn't even think to keep an extra, because we were, back and forth. So we tried to kind of figure out items we sold. So we figured approximately $100 on Wednesday and Thursday, and then that brought us to that approximate 700. But Saturday's sales alone were $491. It was a great event. We had polka dotted pie in the kitchen. They're offering lunch and beverages. There was a line of people being held back by a very loyal participant before 10 o'clock. They were ready to shop. And I was really surprised when I looked over and saw people with reusable shopping bags. Like,
Yes,
they didn't buy
yes,
anything.
they came prepared. Yes, Carol's like, yes.
And that was great because we ran out of, we had
We did.
Walmart bags. We
We
ran
had
out
a
of
ton
them
of
and
them.
somebody brought us
Well,
more.
excuse me, the booth right next to you had a whole bunch of
Had we known, Laura. We had a lot of positive feedback. We did have I took down several names, numbers, emails of people who want to have a booth for a future event. And bonus, we had a couple possible instructors for classes here at the center. And then lots and lots of people asking for us to do it again, or if we're gonna do it again.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you had anything to add to that. We kind of together made our recap, so.
I was to say, I don't think, if we had a booth the next time, if we did it again, we wouldn't have nearly as much stuff to sell, because our closets, I look at them and I kind of, it's sad, it was really hard.
So what they're trying to say is I made them clean out the closets, and it was very difficult. I'm not a crafter, so I'm like, clean it up. And
And let's just say what
I
didn't
think-
sell, Tammy.
I think we need to do a walkthrough of our closets
didn't.
after the meeting.
No.
Because
Yeah.
they just did a phenomenal job of cleaning it out, and I know it's very difficult. So I tried not to go in there too much, but I was like, can we get rid of it? And they're like, hold on, maybe I could. And so it was a challenge, but.
Some of us had a harder time than others.
Just about a couple things.
But those are the creative minds, that are like, I could use that for this. I'm like, it's been here since we moved from the basement of City Hill House in 2017.
It can go.
And Lori, chat with Lori, because she had little cubbies of things hidden in the corner that I didn't know she took over from there, because I said she had to lean it out. So these ladies took care of that, and we made money. So we made money on things that have been sitting in our closet since 2017. So that's a good thing.
I was gonna say,
but-
we also, after making money, were able to make donations to Park and Rec
Yes,
for some of
yes,
the summer
thank you,
programs.
yes.
Trinity, maybe
Yeah,
that was vendors
well,
that were able to donate
yes.
for Trinity daycare
Yeah.
for projects and stuff. So
cool.
Yes.
after the event, there was also some donations from vendors and MEC for programs.
Yeah,
for
that
arts and
was,
crafts.
that was very nice. And then we, did the guys take some, to Vincent,
Yep.
Vincent you said, yeah, so, yeah, it was great. And it was it was just refreshing throughout the day to hear people really excited about, this is great, this is something new and what a great idea, and, so, I mean, kudos to Vicky for finding it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because she's like, I don't know about this, but I saw somebody doing this, I'm like, what is it? And then I was like, you know what, we
Well, I
just, let's
thought
try
of
it, let's try it,
Like us and myself and how many
Yeah, you
hobbies
mean
I get
her and
into
her,
one
yeah.
after the other. Well,
Yeah.
even our closet,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
our stash here.
Yeah,
I jump from hobby to craft, and all of a sudden I'm like, I bought all this. What do I do with it? So
Right.
I'm like, I know I'm not the only one.
Right,
I know
right.
I'm not.
yeah, so it's refreshing. So now our hope is that we're running it again next year, right, or every other year? Had we decided?
We did put it on the calendar for next year,
Just in
to
case?
reserve the date. I think it would be good to start it every year.
I
And
think
if it
so.
fizzles,
And then it
then
fizzles,
jump every.
Then we could do every other year,
Yeah.
like our Festival of Quilts or something.
We
but-
also had one vendor who hauled in probably 2 vehicles full of totes, and she left with 1 basket of yarn.
Yeah.
She had an entire booth full of scrap glass and basket weaving materials, and
Mhm.
Sold it all.
she sold it all. All she left with was a couple of things of yarn.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So we applauded her on her way out.
Yeah. Yes. Right.
Mission accomplished for her.
No doubt, no doubt. So it was fun to see the people coming, their excitement of something different. And that a lot of them asked us if we were going to do it again, and we said, well,
And the buy, sell, swap part of it. Vendors
Yes.
buying from other vendors and
Yeah.
swapping and trading, and
which you guys called out. You're like, that's probably going to be happening. I'm like, well,
they might leave with
That's
less
okay.
of their own stuff,
Yeah.
but they're leaving with somebody else.
somebody else's
Let's
stuff.
just say our proceeds supported our purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a buyer, I mean, I left with a shopping bag
Mhm.
full of yarn, and I'm not sure I spent $10.
See,
The prices were ridiculous.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah, and good and quality things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really good things. So,
And that was something we were concerned about too. No idea what kind of stuff vendors
Right.
would be bringing. They did list it, but you still don't know
right.
what condition things are going to be in. And we had some really high quality
Yes.
high quality items.
Yes, we did.
And they were all really nice booths.
And it was all,
Prices were wonderful.
Yeah.
From a buyer's standpoint.
Yeah,
I mean, when you get a skein of yarn for $1,
Right.
right.
Did the vendors price themselves?
Yes, they did.
and it was just such a nice wide variety of things, it wasn't just all yarn or all one thing or another, it really, it was amazing, what a great variety of things. So,
A little bit of everything.
yeah, and I just a shout out to all the volunteers, because there were
Oh
a
my
lot of
gosh,
volunteers
there
that
were.
helped,
Yes.
made it happen
Yes.
behind the scenes.
We wouldn't be able to do much of anything
Yeah.
if we didn't have our volunteers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's huge.
Well, I
We're
think
very lucky.
They really
Yeah.
came in
It-
the end.
It did, yeah, it took a lot of us. Well, we had, so for a couple days, Vicky and I were running stuff down to set it up, and we had 2 ladies in the classroom here pricing stuff, and it was
Yes.
like, thank goodness they were here pricing stuff. And then the day of, Carol was there to
Yeah,
help us.
yeah.
All 4 of us were busy trying to sell stuff, and
Trying to
Well,
keep up.
Once people
It was-
started buying, I was behind, and all of a sudden I'm like, help! There were lines of people. Then
Yeah.
we were all back there.
Yeah,
we were all
back
busy.
there. Yeah, it
was good.
It was. It was
was
very
fun.
good.
Yeah.
So yes, well, we've got it on the calendar for next year, approximately same time frame.
Yeah, yep.
Mhm. Yeah.
same
So
time, same place.
right.
Bigger and better.
There you go. Wait, which closets are we gonna find?
That's the good thing. Future events
I
isn't
got
going
something
to
to
be.
go to.
Yeah, we probably won't have a table then. We'll have more space for
It'll be
other
more
people
fun
to
for
set.
us,
Yeah.
An idea actually would be
Uh-oh.
just, well, I'm just thinking,
Right.
for people that don't want to sell anything, and you could just have,
We did have
Donate to
people
that.
ask to do that. I guess that's
Oh,
something we
oh.
could consider. People wanted to just donate things. They didn't want to run their own booth, or
yeah,
they didn't have enough to fill a whole booth.
right,
Oh,
that you would,
Yeah,
and
that
then
is
get
an
the
idea.
proceeds.
yeah, yeah, that is.
Sort of a communal booth.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
yes. Not a bad idea. Kind of
Great job.
fundraiser-ish
Gets
for
it out
us.
of
Get
the
it.
house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you give some guidance of some of the more desirable stuff that you would like?
Like what we would like.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
mean, there was
to say.
little bit of everything. I mean, and if they're a creative person and they're used to, you can see something and nothing and what you could use it for. So it's really hard to,
Right.
I mean, some people just had frames, picture frames that they could use for art that they had, or, I mean, I saw one day stash, somebody had a thing of book pages, old book pages in a tote, where most people would be like, that's garbage. And people were like, oh
So
my gosh, I
excited.
can't wait to get there to get those for decoupage or whatever they were gonna do. I mean, it's really hard to say what's for arts and crafts and what isn't, because really anything can be.
And I know a lady that bought one of those frames and she says, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but I sure liked it.
So there's that.
You just hang it on the wall.
There's a certain aspect of enablement.
Yeah. We won't go there, no.
Carol, is your name Carly?
It wasn't me.
She just saw.
I bought yarn for church quilting.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's great, okay.
Well, great job, ladies, that's
Yes,
awesome.
thank you.
Summer luncheons.
Yes. So here we are. So our brainstorming is still happening. So we have that Bierman money from our meal program, right, in our funds. And so I'm like, ladies, we need to figure out how to creatively use this, but not for what it was before, which consumed every minute of every day of the week, having a sit-down community meal, right?
Yeah.
So we started to brainstorm some things, and we started out with food trucks, I think, and then targeting, we have a target market that we want to draw in. That's what those meals were for. However, if we look at the towers now, the housing authority, that looks different than it did. The populations that are in those places now, versus when we started the meal program, those were the markets. They came to eat the meal and then they had some things to take home. So we're kind of brainstorming all over the place of how can we use that money for a similar purpose of what it was donated to us for, which was feeding the community, right? The food, and then the bus is separate. We can use it for combining if we want, but I felt like we should maybe explore that. So why don't you ladies can kind of share what some of your ideas were, because I think they were good ideas, but then if that leads into any ideas from the committee, that's what we're really looking for, is how can we make this happen. You could start with the plants, or you had that idea of trying to coordinate that.
So after the food trucks, when we weren't quite sure how we would hit a target market, when we were thinking of reaching out to the towers like we used to, we had remembered that demographic is all over, it's not. So then I was like, how can we still provide something to them? And I said, what about like container vegetables, whether that's like cherry tomatoes, something they could grow and they could take care of and they could have food, not obviously a whole meal, but something throughout the summer. So I'm like, some of those people in little apartments may have, containers might work. If they're not in the towers, they have a home, they could do more than that. But so then we were trying to figure out a way that we could do something like that, which I think led into all these other brainstorming options. We were really all over the place trying to figure out,
right.
because at first it was how do we target that? And like, we could have something where we're just 65 and up. I think that's fair for us to do that occasionally, even though we are really for all ages now. So then we were still trying to look at like catering. I don't know, you want to kind of run off from some of the other ideas we had? We talked about.
Yeah, catering here, or possibly even if we sent out flyers to the housing authority, the 3 buildings, and for 65 and older, and if we packaged lunches up for them from either catering, then they're not getting out and having the social aspect. If we would bring them there, or if we could have a catering thing come in, and if they were that 65 when they called, and then we could pay for their meal or something.
Yeah. So we're kind of, so I like that. I like that idea. But then we thought if we're bringing food to the towers,
it's gonna pass around quickly that
it's
there's
gonna,
food.
right, word of mouth and everything else, so it gets bigger than maybe we want to have to try to deal with. You know, we don't wanna start IDing people, so, you know, it's really just that thought of how can we reach the people that we used to reach with the money that's dedicated for feeding our community.
Can I ask a couple
Yes,
questions?
please.
So just to get some parameters here.
Mhm.
So is the idea, is it a 5-day-a-week initiative, or is it a 1-day-a-week, or is it
Oh, we were thinking,
2 or
that's a
3?
great question. We were thinking right now just once a month through the summer to see how it goes.
Once a month, so 4 to 5 events,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, approximately, yeah,
okay.
for,
And in the past, how many people do you think you were able to serve
oh my goodness.
at each incident, not overall?
Oh, yeah.
It really varied.
It varied. I mean, there was, this is way back when Dave was still helping cook and everything, and when we moved over here, we would have at least, what, 30
I was
or?
gonna say 30 was probably a
30
big
was
one.
probably a big one, 20 for sure.
So it's not,
20 to 30.
so it's not like 200 people.
No, and that's what we want, that's what we want to,
And
so how do we target
what
those?
is your maximum capacity is the question. What would overwhelm you? 60 people? Or what's the, where's your comfort zone with what you think you could manage? Can you manage 40? Can you manage 50?
Well, I think we were just planning on just the money value, like we have so much money
Sure.
and we want it to last
I get
longer
that.
than have it all
Yep.
go at one time.
But that's a really good question that we didn't think about. We
Well,
didn't
and
get to
because
that
group
point.
of people that came to those meals is a total, I mean,
It's a different,
it's a different
it's a
group.
different group.
And we don't even know how many there would be in that
Right.
possible group. at
So,
this point.
so if you, and the reason I'm asking is, okay, if you take your money and you say, let's say you have it, you said monthly, so 4 times, when do you start? May, June, July,
That's too
August?
soon. May's too soon, I think, right now. I think June,
So
we probably have to,
June, July,
just
August?
logistically of getting everything organized, how we're gonna promote, how we're gonna target
Do
market.
you go through
how-
September, or just June, July, August?
Probably
Probably
just,
as we go decide that.
yeah,
Okay.
In July, or an August fair thing
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Right,
August is
so-
a tough month for us, so we might have to skip August and maybe do September, but then that's it, cause
Right.
then we get into our busy,
So,
crazy.
so you're talking about 3 events with a sort of a target of 30 people each, so 90 people,
Mhm.
right? And you can do something different each time. You take your money, right, divide it by 3, and we start figuring out, what do we do? Do we hold a brat fry? Do we hold a, you know, but then there's the marketing aspect, is who is it we want to get
I
in
think that's
here?
the biggest piece of this puzzle,
That's gonna be
is
the
the
huge one,
marketing.
is
right?
who are these 30
Who are
people?
we? Who
right?
are we targeting
And
to?
how do we decide
And
whether?
how do we decide that?
That's-
And then, you know, originally we were thinking of our core group that's here that comes to play cards, because some of them live in the towers and other places. Some of them live at home alone, right? But they could certainly appreciate a meal. But then it was, how do we limit that? How,
So you make a Willy Wonka ticket, right? You make Willy Wonka tickets and you give them to because 30 people you can target directly. You're not just going on the radio and talking
we
about that.
can,
But-
however, they talk.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's-
absolutely.
So
And
then-
that's why the Willy Wonka golden tickets matter.
Yeah, but
But
then.
it's a transferable ticket, so if somebody can't make it and they give it to their neighbor, I mean, I'm just sort of tossing out, like how,
I see what
because
you-
30 is not an outrageous number to market to, whoever they are.
Mhm.
That's not horrifying to me.
Mhm.
Like you're trying to get 200, right? And so you go on the radio every week and tell people.
Right.
But part of it is your capacity. What can
Right,
you manage? And if the word of mouth starts to spread, does it spread because it's a great idea, or because there's a need, or like is it
Right.
choice or is it necessity?
Right.
Because that changes everything. If it's
Mhm.
necessity, yeah, you don't want to ID people. But if it's just, I don't feel like making lunch today, I'll head over and mooch off of Tammy and her staff.
Mhm.
You know, that's I mean, that would be me mooching off of it. I'm not referring to anybody except me.
Right,
But
right,
I'm
right.
just trying to be sort of mathematical about it and figure out how heavy is the lift and what do we have to do to make it happen. once you identify a pipeline for making it happen. Sorry, I just, it's the way my mind.
No, those are,
I think like a
those are all,
spreadsheet.
because some of those things we hadn't even got to the point of thinking about. So those are all good thinking points for us. Jean, did you have something?
I apologize for the redundancy, but what's your primary purpose?
The
to start
Beerman money that was donated to us for the meal
Yeah.
program, I don't have the sheet here, but it's thousands of dollars that's
Yeah.
left in that. And I
understand
feel,
that. So is related to your question, are you looking for referrals for people who would demonstrate a need somehow from the community in general? Or
possibly.
how do you ascertain?
Well,
that
that's where we
30?
started with the towers, because that used to be, like Park Place, Stonebridge, and the towers used to be our
Just a natural-
our target group. Like that's where those people who needed the meal, almost fully, right?
But that's not
Those
the
are the
case
ones who
anymore?
came. Pardon?
But that's not the case anymore?
Not at Jenny Towers. I think there's a different population demographic
It's
in.
not, there's not an age restriction.
No, there's no age
different guidelines.
restriction. There's different things there, so.
Is there a confidentiality issue about the Meals on Wheels people? Because maybe this is also a way to, 2 or 3 times throughout the summer, I mean, obviously if they're way far out and they have no transportation, that doesn't help. But, you know, this may be preferable to a frozen dinner, even if it only happens 2 or 3 times in a summer. But, there's a list, and the list is needs-based, but that may mean that there's a confidentiality issue with it as well. But there may be an option to work with the Meals on Wheels people and say, hey, we've got this event.
That's a really good idea.
Would you
golden
like to
tickets.
offer
Yes.
it
Yeah.
to your Meals on Wheels
Yes,
people?
that's-
Your meal today is on behalf of.
Right,
Yes,
right.
I love that.
Yeah, so,
Because a lot of those people are isolated, so transportation could be an issue.
right.
You're not reinventing the wheel.
Right,
Right,
and you would have an insight into who would be the most.
right.
So
Could benefit the most.
she could be your method of issuing an
Yes,
invitation.
yes,
right?
yes, definitely.
Well, how did those people come here who were here when you had that band play? We had a nice group of people, when we had those fish dinners and stuff like, how did we get
Oh,
those
Randy?
people? How did we get?
That was the people who were coming here playing cards mostly, right, Steph?
Some,
Some,
but
some just came for the food.
Yeah, and then we served, I wanna say sometimes it would be 50, 60 that would come for the fish boils.
But they did pay for those
That's-
meals.
yeah,
That
they
wasn't
paid.
like the community meal.
Because Randy, that money went to him.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah.
that, but I'm just
Yeah.
talking about the names or the people per se. So
Yeah,
that's
that
not the
was in our
target
newsletter.
population
Yeah,
you're
and some
talking
of
about.
that was word of mouth.
Yes.
Right.
You know,
Oh,
it's-
right, because
it's,
he
this
had
is really
established.
good, let's go, da, da, da.
Yes, yes, it was, he was, yeah. People were very disappointed when he stopped doing that because they looked forward to that all the time.
But again, that's not your target population, because I used to come to every one of those, and I didn't know that I was desperate for food, but
Well, and you know, on that note, I always think about, because when I delivered Meals on Wheels, I thought about the isolation of the people who were home alone. So yes, it's the food, but it's also getting them out and socially connected for their well-being. So it's kind of twofold. People who live in those apartments and stuff have some other people around them, but I really like the Meals on Wheels piece because a lot of those people are alone.
Do you have a van, like a little bus that you guys use? So for that one event, let's say she issues the invitation. So you don't know who those people are until, but she issues the invitation, she gets RSVPs. And we're talking 30 people. Let's say 15 of them can get themselves here, but maybe 10 to 15 can't. It's sort of like if you've ever traveled in the UK, they have this slow bus system. Do you know the slow bus? The slow bus is like an intercity bus, like a Greyhound, except that it goes slow. And it's got an itinerary, it just doesn't have a time on it, so they're kind of not in a rush. But suppose, I don't know who drives your van, but suppose there were 5 to 10 people that day who needed to be picked up and brought for the meal. That would still, you know who's who, we just go to the addresses that you tell us to, and we pick up somebody, we bring them, they eat the meal, we drop them off. Although now, I don't know, maybe you get scared about liability issues, maybe there's a liability issue about driving those things. I don't know.
I don't think there is. I think comfort level of driving the thing and not hitting curbs all over.
That sounds like a voice of
Yeah,
experience.
that might be it, but we do have a driver and
Okay.
a few drivers, but I think we're down to one right now who prefers to drive.
Yeah.
But could we drive it? Yes, we could.
Because if you're
For
talking,
that, for something like that, yeah.
right, if you're talking, 2/3 of the people, let's say your target is 30,
Mhm.
and 20 people can get themselves here, but 10 need to be
Mhm.
picked up and
Yeah.
dropped off. That's not such a horrible thing,
Right,
right?
right.
And it does bring the isolated people in.
Right, and what your idea about the city bus too,
Mhm.
Steph had the idea, if you wanna share that,
Well, the merry-go-round, because then we didn't know how things were gonna work, and if we just paid for the merry-go-round to pick them up
Right.
and bring them back home
Yeah,
after
right.
the lunch.
which we have that funding for.
Right.
So we could cover their costs.
So that would take care of the people who are in the
Yes,
city,
isolate.
and then your van could
Yes.
get anybody who's
If
outside the
outside of the
merry-go-round's
limits.
perimeter,
Mhm.
right?
Well,
If
the other
needed.
thing is, if you have a targeted group,
Mhm.
and because it's affecting everybody, and you could almost do 1 month being in this area, so the transport would not be so
yes,
much, and
right.
then kind
Once
of
a-
targeting.
Right,
Yeah.
like
Areas of-
Gleason or
right,
Corning or,
right,
yeah,
wherever.
bouncing.
That's,
I don't know.
yeah, that's a good idea too, instead of it always just being in the one section. Yeah.
But you remember a few years back when we were doing the trail, every year we invited people to come, they would come from the
Oh,
various
yes,
homes.
yes.
And the fire department would come and ride them up and down the trail, up and down the
Yes,
river.
yep, I
And
remember
we
that.
would get 50 people to come from the homes as well as from the community.
Mm-hmm,
And then we would invite a few, I'm not sure of the terminology, people who were able to carry a conversation, because sometimes we found that when we put a group of 5 or 6 or 7 people together from some of these institutional areas, they just sat there.
oh,
And when we put a person, like the firemen was so good, because these guys would carry on a conversation with
yes,
everybody.
yeah.
And it made that group participate.
Yeah.
But we served a meal for 40, 50 people at the Agra building.
Mm-hmm,
And riding up and down the trail every year was just a marvelous experience for these folks who wanted to do that.
mm-hmm.
Because they never really used to get on the trail. And I think the idea of maybe inviting somebody else to participate with the group to try to stimulate conversation.
So it's
Oh,
not just a
yes.
meal and a go.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Social ambassadors.
Yeah.
There you
Yes,
go.
yes.
Yeah.
You could, that's when you could do your flower tours around the city. All the little stops that you tried to do last year. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a very good idea. All right.
How much
Anything
money
else?
do you have in the Beerman Fund?
Oh my gosh, you're gonna put me on the spot.
I mean, ballpark, I mean, is it 5, 10?
Five or six well, there's transportation and meal. Transportation has a little bit more, meal, is it stuck at about 5, I think? I'll get those numbers to you.
So the
There's
transportation could
enough.
be used for the merry-go-round
Right,
Yes,
or,
yep,
or gas for your
Yep,
bus or
yep.
right.
whatever.
Yes.
So you got
Mhm.
plenty of money then.
Yeah, we do,
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
But it was given, not with restrictions, I don't wanna say, but with, target markets of who that money,
Right.
how that was gonna be.
I would venture a
Used.
guess that the Beermans would be really happy if
Mhm.
it filled the gap that has been created in
Yes,
Meals on Wheels.
yes,
I think that would
yes.
be sort of consistent with their general mission,
Mhm,
so.
mhm.
it's-
And this is a one-time thing, this is not a perpetual annual donation.
Right, I think when the girls and I were talking about it, we're just like, let's, the weather's good, let's try to go through the summer and maybe into very early fall and just to have one a month so that we get people out and start seeing how it's, how it goes and then if it does go well, then we could do that again next, spring to summer again and fall if it works out good. When the weather is nice, I think it makes everything easier and not canceling and then we have to figure out if we can get to that point of figuring out reaching people, then we have to start figuring out the food. And what that's gonna look like. Is it gonna be food trucks coming in? and then we're going to supplement the meals and then how many people, and so all of those things have to kind of happen, but we have to just figure out, is this a feasible goal for us, and can we make this happen? So I guess if we're going to target the Meals on Wheels group, Jennifer talks to Aaron, we figure out, is this something we can do? Can we share flyers and give them the option of signing up? Is that okay? If we get past that first step, then we can think of something, yeah.
What I think is a really good idea, this flower thing that you were referring to, because I remember some years ago, we took people on a Flower of Homes tour.
Yeah.
And we took, we had about 15, and well, they were all women, believe it or not, but they just had a marvelous time going to people's homes and businesses to look at flowers, and
Yeah, we
it was
can
just a
put that
marvelous
on the-
fun time.
we can put that on the docket too.
I tried to do that as a bus trip last year, just to drive around town and go to the park and have a light lunch, but yeah, I didn't have really any interest, so yeah,
Who knows?
just, yeah. But going back to like the Meals on
Yeah.
Wheels, so do the people that are on Meals on Wheels, are they somehow bound to be at home, like to stay at home? So it would be a difficult time, and then would we need other people to come here to help, like, assist them? Or what like,
Good question.
So in order
It
to be
was-
on Meals on Wheels, you have to be homebound. Now, homebound doesn't mean that you never ever leave your house, but I
Right,
mean, people probably go out for appointments, but it means that it's difficult to get out and maybe grocery shop or,
Right.
you know, get out to a restaurant, that kind of thing. So I would assume that, I would say most of our Meals on Wheels participants probably would be fine coming in.
but there are dining sites for Meals on Wheels as
Right,
well.
we do have dining sites.
So that I would think would fall under that
Right.
umbrella per se, is that it would be a dining site where it hopefully would be allowed for them to be able to come to the meal, and if we're providing the transportation.
Like homebound individuals too. I mean, we get to talk to Brenda about that,
Yeah.
but
Maybe
that might be
that might-
something to
And
consider.
the fact that they need to have the transportation
think-
provided by us
Well,
pretty
exactly.
much demonstrates that they
And
would
I think
otherwise
if you're
be-
looking at social isolation, those are our
Yeah.
individuals that are most isolated.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's who I would love to be able to get here, if they're willing.
Mhm.
How many people are we talking about on Meals on Wheels in this, let's say the south half of Lincoln County, more the Merrill area?
Gosh, I have
The best
no
guess?
idea.
Yikes.
I mean, how many people could we be what would it be our target group? It could be, we're talking 100 people, 200 people?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of people.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
But I like the idea of, Laura, you had the idea of, this area will look at this group, and then the next part of town, and, kind of breaking up where those meals are delivered to, and then
And are
looking
you-
at,
It's almost like a
am I
pyramid.
hearing
Yeah,
that you're
yeah.
kind of looking at more like lower income individuals too, because we do capture that info?
Sure.
I mean, you could
Yeah.
target like a lower income population.
yeah.
And the trick to it is just that the information only flows one direction. So we give you the information, you talk to those people,
Yes.
and then if they choose,
Yes.
they can then sign up.
Yes.
It's not like we knew who they were to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
so the confidentiality is still there, it's all their choice,
Right.
whether they wish to take advantage of it or not. And,
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a great
It
start.
might be, just to add into it, it might be a nice idea to see about Rasputina and, something like that, where they can eat and socialize and then have an hour of music to enjoy. If
Right.
they're not getting out often,
Right.
some live
Yeah,
music
that-
might be
that
kind
would
of
be
a.
a-
That's a great
We've also
idea.
got some groups that would come to like the Pinecrest nursing homes that volunteer. That might be another
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
possibility.
oh,
I
okay.
mean, beyond just Rasputina.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so, okay.
Somebody
I
just
was
put a
just
bunch of
gonna-
poodles there recently.
I saw
Poodles
that.
of poodles, did you
Big
see?
pools.
Really?
Yeah,
They were big guys.
That would be great.
it would be.
One other just thought, and
Yeah.
you're gonna be like, but.
Oh, okay, thanks for that.
Well, I mean, just because it's.
Thanks for the warning.
Well, just thinking about Fridays, if they're not getting the meal on Friday, could that be a Friday offering?
right.
I know, that's what I thought.
Yeah, payroll.
I know,
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
that was my only thing, just to add.
Unless we had a Friday offering and then we weren't here during the
Different
week,
day.
Monday through Thursday for however many
A
hours that we
flex hour, right.
had to do the Friday.
Like you're also then competing with Friday night fish fries, and that is sometimes a social event for
Yeah, you
people
can't do
too.
two of those things
No.
in one day.
Although my guess is like if you're focusing on meals,
I know some
individuals are
elderly
getting
and
out for fish
some-
fries.
That's true, that's true.
Yeah, yeah,
It'll be
that's true.
fun.
Yeah.
All right. well,
So it's not impossible, because, you know, there's times that, you know, we have to take off.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, because we have a D-Stash event or something, so we have to
Sure,
play with our hours anyway.
right.
So if it was, you know, on a few Fridays in the year, and we just balance the best we can within that month of payroll, that one of us is off. However, on the radio this morning, I'm gonna bring this up, so there's a new person, Vicky called in to do the main newsletter, and she had to pretty much just keep going, because this guy was new.
Well, and he didn't get the
He
newsletter
didn't
in
get the
his
newsletter,
email.
so she just kept going and did a very good job, just kept going. And then at the end, he's like, Vicky, and she's like, oh no, did I talk too long? You know, she's thinking to
Yeah.
herself, and he's like, is there anything you don't do at the Merrill Enrichment Center? She's like, well, if there is, let us know, and we'll try to do it, you know? So it was a good compliment that we do a ton of stuff. So my point with that is, like in week 3, for us, any of us to have a day off is a bit painful.
It's not- yeah.
So,
Okay, well,
so
I
we,
just-
you know,
yeah.
but we can do it. You know, we can, if we know it's coming up, then we adjust our schedule accordingly, and, you know, we're off for a half day or something to balance that half day offering. So it's not impossible. I think it's a good idea.
Can the
Yeah.
Meals and Wheels program be flexible and not just do Monday through Thursday, but if we're doing a Wednesday, they do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday?
I think that would be difficult just with our caterers.
That one.
Yeah, our caterer comes out of Rhinelander, so she supplies meals for Anago, Langlade, and Lincoln County.
It's very fixed.
Yeah.
Any thought of just always doing Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, thinking that if people have one day off versus 3 days off, they can save their food or whatever they have to do, you know, that's
Yeah, I don't know
easier
how
for
they
them.
decided on Fridays. I'm not sure what the rationalization
Yeah,
behind
yeah.
that was, but
It just, you
Yeah.
know, versus 3 days of isolation.
maybe
Right.
Versus
how
a
they
1 and
deliver
a 2-day
Right.
isolation, just seems,
frozen.
they'd like that
Like
better.
a
That's a good
typical,
point, yeah.
you know, 3-4 day work week and then a
Yeah.
3 Friday off. I think that's just,
Well, and it just seems like
Assumed.
with the way Frozens were delivered, they were always delivered on Friday for the weekend. I wonder if they're thinking it would be easier, otherwise you'd be delivering Frozens on Tuesday for Wednesday, and
Oh,
then again on
right,
Thursday for the
right,
weekend,
right.
or Friday
Yes,
after the
yes.
weekend.
Yep.
Or
Yes.
just
Still
convenience
needs
of
it.
volunteers,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
not running on the weekends.
yeah. I'm not sure how that was decided though, but.
Right.
Well, I guess
All
just-
really great ideas. I mean, thank you. I'm glad we brought it, because we were we did our initial brainstorm, and I was like, we need more minds for this, just because we just started it, and so it was kind of good timing. So, very good ideas. So we'll just take those and see what we can do with Meals on Wheels, and then we'll kind of pause on that and wait and see what we hear, and then pick
Do
it
you
up.
want me to give Rhonda and Erin a heads up, or do you wanna?
Yes, if you could,
Okay.
just tell her we discussed it, and that I'll reach out to her next week if she has time. She's pretty bogged down,
Are
so.
you also planning a volunteer luncheon again?
You know, we went back and forth with that towards the end of the month, which is this month. So as close as we are, we just discussed that again this morning. We're not 100% sure.
It was very well received.
Yeah, it was
We're
very
thinking of doing
nice.
something, we just weren't sure if we could get a luncheon in anymore.
Right,
For
right.
people specific.
What's the date?
Right.
I mean, I
Yeah,
don't think that's-
no, it doesn't, but it was just that it's volunteer appreciation month.
Yeah,
that's why.
yeah, so we wanted to try to get that in. But yes, we do have some ideas of what we want to do with that. Because you're right, it was well received, and we definitely want to recognize everybody, so. Good question.
If this becomes successful, I think the Bierman Foundation probably would give more money. I mean,
That's
I
good.
wouldn't be afraid of running out of it by
Right,
limiting how many
right,
people can
right.
come. I
Right,
think if you used all the money up this year, the
Yeah.
amount of money in the Bierman Foundation, this is kind of nickel. you know,
Yeah.
this
Right.
is not a lot of money for
Right.
them. And if they felt that this could further a program that has needs
Right.
because of government cuts, I think they'd be all for continuing.
Yeah,
So
so
I wouldn't
speaking
save
of
the money.
volunteers, so then so we'd have to rely on some volunteers as well if it became consistent for us again. But we'll start it out with a couple months and see how it goes, and if it's well received, then we can relook at it and then recruit some volunteers to maybe help if it gets to that point. And then, then go from there, and then if the money starts getting low, we can always apply for another
Right.
grant from them. And I'm sure you're right, they're very supportive. Yeah.
This clearly
Which is-
appears to be a need,
Yeah,
given
right,
this cut.
and especially now, coming up.
Sweet, okay, next
All right.
May offerings.
Okay, so they're right here. So, there's one thing that didn't make it on here, and if you recall last year, Mary Huda was gonna do a farm to table series, and so she is going to come back and do that. So, we missed May's newsletter, this was published already, so on May 7th is going to be at 11 o'clock, is going to be her first in the series of her farm to table. And so is it in the May newsletter
No.
inside? It didn't make
Seed
it
to
at all.
Harvest is the.
Yeah, the Seed to Harvest is the first one, and then she's gonna talk about, another one is she's gonna talk about is livestock and local beef providers. So I think that's a really good one. And then what other ones does she have on that? She has, going through and getting recipes for each season and what produce is fresh in the farmer's market, and then what you can do with it. Like how it's, okay, there's squash, there's this, there's that. And she's gonna talk about like all the different things that you can do with that. I don't know if she was gonna get into canning last year or not, I'm hesitating on
I
that
think
a
she
little.
wanted to touch on it.
She wanted to touch on that too, so she's really excited about it, so we're happy to be able to try to offer it again. Last time it didn't take off, and then there was a pause because she had some kids, and so now so there's that. And so she's coming back, and we're really looking forward to that. In May, the Business Lunch and Learn. If you know people in business right now, that is a workshop that the gentleman, he's coming, Jeff is coming from Madison area, and he's done a couple presentations in the past for us. But when he sent the, all of the different offerings that he had, there was a business lunch and learn. And so that's for privacy and security for businesses. So that will be on May 13th, starting at 11:30.
How
So,
will businesses know about that?
I called the chamber, they have it on there, and they're promoting it, yes. So that I reached out to them right away, to Sarah, and she said, yep, we'll get that to them and let them know about it and put it on their calendar. So it is on the chamber's calendar as well. I think Vicki has it on our Facebook page. Of course, it's in here. Radio, we just made sure it was on the radio. But yes, if you're in a small business in town or whatever, maybe just bring a newsletter and let them know.
Lunch is provided then,
Yes, we're providing that lunch, yeah. So,
and no cost then to the business owner.
pardon?
No cost to the business owner,
Correct,
correct, just come.
yes, right. We have a couple new classes that you probably saw. One is a C-glass class. It hasn't, well, of course, this didn't get out until just right
I
now.
think we have 3 now, though. don't
We have 3 now? Okay, so that's a new one. And what other new ones do we have in here?
The decor class again.
Yep, the spring decor class. I think it wasn't springy enough, so we're running it again in May, and then it should be springy enough. So we're doing that. I don't think there's much new else besides those few things, but I did, our grief book club opportunity. So that's finally, we had discussed that, so we finally have that going. That is going to be a really great take on it. Vicki announced it on the radio this morning too. I really hope that takes off. So basically it's instead of people, there's a stigma with grief groups, and a lot of people just prefer not. But this is taking a book and reading it and channeling that grief through the book. So great idea, this Natalie, is it Bassett, who came to us. It was her idea, and then we met with, who did we meet with from the new person from ADRC?
Jennifer Thompson? No.
No,
That doesn't sound right.
no,
Katie then?
Yes.
yes,
Oh,
Katie. And so she was in on the meeting as well, and she had some really good ideas for it too. So we're hoping that this goes well, and we're again promoting it on Facebook and in other places. So that's a new offering for us.
And just to add to that,
Yes,
Natalie
please.
also said, you know, it's not just grief about losing somebody, it's
Right.
grief if you had dreams that
Oh.
you are no longer able to reach for whatever reason.
Mhm.
That's a huge loss too, so, or, I mean, any type of loss, not
Health,
just.
like health changes even she has. So if you're, you've got an issue that came up and you're frustrated about that and you can't do the things that you're grieving, but people think of grief only as loss. And it might be a loss, but not a death. It's something else that you aren't able to do that you used to do. So
The way
what?
things were pictured, how you pictured things
Right.
to go, your life, and all of a sudden that's
Right, and then you can't, and so you're kind of grieving that as well. So I'm really excited about that, and hopefully people will respond. Sometimes it takes a little bit to offer it before people start to come and understand what it is. So we'd like to get that word out as well. And of course, our bus trips. We're getting back on the road. Stephanie is working hard on those. It's painful. It's painful
Right, that's what I
because
thought.
you work so hard, and then the trip doesn't happen. So we have, starting May 12th, primitive gatherings. In June, we have the Wisconsin Quilt Shop Hop Antiques and Thrifting in Stevens Point area. August 13th is Ridiculous Day in Rhinelander. I guess that's been going on for quite a while, and I never heard of
I think
it.
it's similar to what Crazy is.
Kind of crazy days. And August and September, this big one, did we pick a date?
September 18th.
September 18th now. So after this was printed, we chose September 18th for Door County.
Oh.
And what did you find out? Like what happened?
Johnson
Yeah.
wine time or what?
Lingonberry
Yes.
jam at Al Johnson's.
So for Door County, I wasn't expecting quite the large response I've gotten back on that already.
Yeah.
Because
Bigger than our bus.
we were just gonna take our little Lily bus and just go, and because it was such a long day, I have like a 10-hour day just kind of planned.
Yep.
Start and stop at a town and just keep going and turn around and come back.
Yep.
And so I was just like, it'll be fun, just very
Manageable.
relaxed and
small.
and then the telephone calls. First it took a couple days and nobody was calling, and I was like, well, maybe nobody's interested. And then the other day our phone calls and people coming in were like, oh, and so we heard that the Mark isn't doing it anymore this year. And I was like, oh boy.
Right.
So
Sign my 5 friends up with me.
So
Yeah.
now our 10-hour, $35 bus trip, I'm afraid I'm going to check into what it would cost for a Lamers bus.
Because I'm pretty sure we would
see
fill it.
What?
Wow.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah.
But when Park and Rec do it, they get on the trolley, and then the trolley takes them and does all their, talks about all their different stops.
Mhm.
But they said it was very pricey because the trolley alone was almost $100.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable.
And it's
Is-
very uncomfortable, yeah.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
said it was a great trip, but it ended up being a long day. And I kind of figured it would be about that same 10-hour day.
Mhm.
And I know our bus, and that's why if we go to stop here and go, stop in Sturgeon Bay, stop at Eckhart, I don't know all the cities in the right order, but
Mhm.
if you stop in a couple of them towns and just get out, if you want to grab a snack at some of the places to eat, go shopping, look at the colors, whatever, we just stop at
Stretch
a,
your legs.
and just
Yes.
walk for a little bit to break
I
that.
can imagine doing the trolley on top of the bus ride there.
Right.
That's a lot of sitting.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I said we were gonna have to stop, and
Yeah.
so that's part of that whole 10-hour day, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think,
It's
we're
gonna
gonna
be
have
bigger
to.
than our initial Yeah.
So,
Who knew?
yeah,
Who
so,
knew? But we have some really, and is there,
and then.
oh wait, we added
We
the
have,
other one.
yep, so then in August, we have, on August 7th, I believe is the date, don't quote me on the date, but we're gonna go to Stoughton, to Spry Whimsical and Fiber Arts, and then to, oh boy.
Yeah, I can't pronounce
It
that
is
either.
Your Life's Journey, it is.
Norwegian based, it's
yeah.
a Norwegian based, and it's not.
A museum.
It's not a museum.
I got
So the lady who told me it was a museum, I said, oh, that sounds fascinating. It has genealogy, it has all the history. So I told Steph, I said, this is what she said. So when she called them, she was corrected.
Yes, it's not a
It
museum.
is not a museum.
I'm like, okay, I'm sorry.
We're clear, we got that.
But yeah, it's LISVERSE or something
Yes,
like that.
yes.
So,
They actually, if you go to the website, they have a pronunciation
Oh,
breakdown
that
for you,
helps
which is
out.
really helpful.
yeah,
But it sounds fabulous.
yes, a very, yeah.
Mhm.
And then she said, and then there was the lady recommended a restaurant there, but it takes 20 minutes to make a sandwich. So she said,
You know it's gotta be good.
Yeah.
It takes 20 minutes.
Mine exactly, I was like, what? I mean, I'm a slow cook, but.
that would be like
Yeah.
8.5 hour, 9 hour day.
That would
So
be a
yes,
long
it's-
hour day.
Oh
But
my
both
God.
of them trips, so Door County and Stoughton is definitely out of our little 2-hour area. Usually I try to stay around a 2-hour
Mhm.
radius. So both of them are a little bit farther out, but once a year, every other year, we go to Madison to the quilt show for our crafters. And because in last year I tried to do lunch buses and they did not fill. I had a really difficult time. But I think we lost a lot of our people from the housing that we used to have.
Who would go on those trips often.
So.
And that kind of filtered us into, can we have something here too, you
Right,
know, so,
and that was,
yeah.
so with,
So
having them
it-
hard,
It's gonna be busy.
so,
Are you
Now
still
it's-
planning the Madison Quilt Show? Or no?
it would be on the year for, it would be, I don't know, we have to see. But,
Yes, that.
because we're doing 2 other quilting ones and not,
Yeah.
I have to.
Yeah, we
Well,
are.
because we're gonna go to Primitive Gatherings and
Also,
then the
then
shop
quilt
hop in
shop
June.
hop.
Oh, okay.
I'm waiting to hear back, so that is also a little bit farther than what we would normally go, because I'm trying to get in contact if my ladies can decide on a date that would work for them.
Mhm.
Go to Osseo and Whitehall, to Pammy's Patchwork Playhouse, and to the Nook and More. And then they also have right next to the Nook, the Quilting Nook and More, there is, I wanna say it is also a Norwegian restaurant or something. They're well known worldwide for their pies, is their,
Ooh,
Mhm.
I love those.
Yeah.
Just for the buy.
trying to, yeah, I guess,
Well,
but
and you know, that's.
they said their lunches are very good too.
So what happens with these bus trips is, you know, we, initially, again, this small bus, right? To get people and go and do things, so that's why the lunch buses were nice until they fizzled out, which is normal for everything. But now when we're doing some of these other things that are a little further away, surprisingly, more people are interested, even though it's a higher price, and then we need to rent a lamers, and then we're not using our bus. So it's kind of that, but at least
That's why you need to use the bus for the lunches.
yeah, so we can
There you
use
go.
the bus for that, and we just, you know, we want to use the bus, and we are using the bus, but I'm glad that we're serving the community's wants for these bigger trips, because they want to go.
Right.
And if
it's
we can
not something
provide
that they
it,
do
and we
to
don't
them.
want to step on any toes, even, you know, like even the mark or anything, so we're very mindful of that too, so it was news to us that they stopped that. So our small trip to Door County is turning into possibly a larger trip.
And that day actually works out, so there's a rental in the expo on September 18th, so that's kind of how we picked that day.
Yes,
So if we did get a Lamer's bus, all 3 of
We
us
can
would
all
be
go.
able to go, so.
because we normally can't do that.
There you go.
You want to go, right?
Everyone's like, small.
You want to go, right? It'll be fun.
Is there still an apple Hamilton shopping trip maybe later?
Oh, we haven't gotten there yet.
I haven't got too far ahead.
Yeah, we're only in September, so,
We think Christmas at that time. would be
Yeah.
pretty.
Pammy's Patchwork Playhouse.
All right, I think we'll move on here. Any other discussion about, I'm not sure if that was
About
something in
anything.
particular, about anything?
about anything.
Oh, we talked about a lot.
Yeah,
Any other,
or ideas for future?
well, and ideas for future too, if you, before we get to the next agenda, if there's something you think of, just send an email so we can get that topic on the agenda. I'm always looking for something that, and hopefully I'm not missing something. So if there is anything that we need to discuss, make sure to bring it forward.
I'd just like to mention, the guys group is growing, even though we keep losing people. For some reason, they pass away, but it's been an interesting group to, sometimes we have 15 or 16 people sitting around this table.
Yeah.
The conversations are kind of convoluted, I think, to say the least, but
I saw that it's also on Mondays now, too.
yeah.
Yes.
Didn't realize it was another day.
And,
They are trying to get some Wednesdays, but that one's kind of hard if we can give up this room every morning.
Right. We have other activities we have to try to find places for.
And honestly, if it wasn't for the new book grief group, we
Yeah.
probably could have gave
Yeah.
up Wednesdays right away.
I think I need to buy more chairs too. I asked Matt if we might need some more chairs, so.
Just a thought, if that was available on certain Wednesdays, if you just did it for the month,
Yeah, we did talk about
we
it.
can go other places. Like when you're closed, then we typically go to Pine Ridge,
Oh, gotcha.
like between Christmas and New Year's.
Okay.
But the guys express a lot of, the ladies do such a good job. They provide coffee and sometimes somebody brings food and stuff, but it's been an enriching experience.
Yes.
Great.
I hear the coffee is really good too.
Very good.
She's the maker.
If you didn't guess.
Some people struggle to leave $1 for their coffee. They drink 9 cups.
We're trying to get them to do 2.
Oh, so it's not that great, there's just one person who really thinks
It's not that we're cheap.
Somebody out there really loves it.
Yeah.
I always say on the radio that the guys group is for solving the world's problems. Coffee and conversation and solving the
Well,
world's problems.
if you consider laughing so loud they hear you across the street.
Well, wouldn't that be a
Everybody
good way
needs
to
that.
solve the world's
It
problems?
sounds
I'll
good to
tell you,
me,
yeah.
Right, exactly.
That's how you get by.
Yeah.
That's right. Gotta laugh.
All right, so the next meeting will be on May 15th at 2:15. If there's nothing else,
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Is there
All right,
anything-
thanks